Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Schulz. Today we have our final story from England, and it's a version of an English tale that we've told before. But honestly, I much prefer this ending. There's something about it that just makes it perfect. This is The Three Fools. There was once a good-looking girl, the daughter of well-off country folk, who was loved by an honest young fellow named John. He courted her for a long time, and at last got her and her parents to consent to his marrying her, which was to come off in a few weeks' time. One day, as the girl's father was working in his garden, he sat down to rest himself beside the well, and, looking in, and seeing how deep it was, he fell a-thinking. "If Jane had a child," said he to himself, "who knows but that one day it might play about here, and fall in, and be killed?" The thought of such a thing filled him with sorrow, and he sat crying into the well for some time, until his wife came to him. "What's the matter?" asked she. "What are you crying for?" Then the man told her his thoughts. "If Jane marries and has a child," said he, "who knows but it might play about here and some day fall into the well and be killed?" "Alack!" cried the woman. "I never thought of that before. It is indeed possible." So she sat down and wept with her husband. As neither of them came to the house, the daughter shortly came to look for them, and when she found them sitting crying into the well, "What is the matter?" asked she. "Why do you weep?" So her father told her of the thought that had struck him. "Yes," said she, "it might happen." So she too sat down with her father and mother and wept into the well. They had sat there a good while when John comes to them. "What makes you so sad?" said he. So the father told him what had occurred, and said that he should be afraid to let him have his daughter, seeing her child might fall into the well. "You are three fools," said the young man when he had heard him to an end, and leaving them, he thought over whether he should try to get Jane for his wife or not. At length, he decided that he would marry her if he could find 3 people more foolish than her and her father and mother. He put on his boots and went out. "I will walk till I wear these boots out," said he, "and if I find 3 more foolish people before I am barefoot, I will marry her." So he went on, and walked very far till he came to a barn, at the door of which stood a man with a shovel in his hands. He seemed to be working very hard, shoveling the air in at the door. "What are you doing?" asked John. "I am shoveling in the sunbeams," replied the man, "to ripen the corn." "Why don't you have the corn out in the sun for it to ripen it?" asked John. "Good," said the man. "Why, I never thought of that. Good luck to you, for you have saved me many a weary day's work." "That's fool number 1, said John, and went on. He traveled a long way until one day he came to a cottage. Against the wall of it was placed a ladder, and a man was trying to pull a cow up it by means of a rope, one end of which was around the cow's neck. "What are you about?" asked John. "Why," replied the man, "I want the cow up on the roof to eat off the fine tuft of grass you see growing there." "And why don't you cut the grass and give it to the cow?" asked John. "Why now, I never thought of that," answered the man. "So I will, of course, and many thanks, for many a good cow have I killed in trying to get it up there." "That's fool number 2, said John to himself. He walked on a long way, thinking there were more fools in the world than he had thought, and wondering what would be the next one he should meet. He had to wait a long time, however, and walk very far, and his boots were almost worn out before he found another. One day, however, he came to a field, in the middle of which he saw a pair of trousers standing up, being held up by sticks. A man was running about them and jumping over and over them. "Hello!" cried John. "What are you about?"
"Why," said
the man,
"what need is there to ask? Don't you see I want to get the trousers on?"
So saying, he took 2 or 3 more runs and jumps, but always jumped either to this side or that of the trousers. "Why don't you take the trousers and draw them on?" asked John.
"Good," said the man. "Why, I never thought of it. Many thanks. I only wish you had come before, for I have lost a great deal of time in trying to jump into them."
"That," said John, "is fool number 3. So as his boots were not yet quite worn out, he returned to his home, and went again to ask Jane of her father and mother. At last they gave him to her, and they lived very happily together, for John had put a rail around the well, and the child did not fall into it. That is the English folktale from Folklore and Legends English of the 3 Fools. It's a story that is awfully similar to the 3 Sillies, one of my other favorite nonsensical English tales. But this one, just the end makes it so much better. Not only has this man John shown that he is not the fool, but that he'll go ahead and just put a fence around the well. Honestly, he should have just done this from the start. It goes to show that he hasn't really traveled the world if he doesn't believe that there are plenty of foolish people on it. But really, just a fence. That's simple. This is Dan Schultz with the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Next week, we're leaving England to go to one of its colonies. As always, thank you so much for listening.